Hello kaiju fans, it's the one and only Shoma, and today we will be talking about the smog monster, Hedorah. Hedorah is an alien life form that feeds off pollution, which first appeared in director Yoshimitsu Banno's Godzilla vs. Hedorah. Primarily driven by instinct and a will to survive, the horrific death and destruction Hedorah causes are mostly derived from his bizarre biological properties, rather than any true malice. However, he does demonstrate aggression and an ever-increasing amount of intelligence and awareness in his encounters with Godzilla. When first confronted by Godzilla, Hedorah answers Godzilla's taunts, and during the final battle, Hedorah laughs while brutally maiming Godzilla, and when he attempts to drown him in sludge. In addition, Hedorah is one of Godzilla's most difficult opponents in the Showa series. While he could not kill Godzilla, Hedorah seriously injured him and cost him a hand and one of his eyes, and it required the combined efforts of Godzilla and humanity to finally defeat the monster. The original Hedorah has 5 distinct forms, denoted as young form, aquatic stage, landing stage, flying stage, and perfect stage. Hedorah's stages all share multiple common characteristics. All have gray, kelp-like surfaces and large golden-black irises with red sclera. These eyes are positioned so that they blink sideways. Hedorah's young form is directly based off tadpoles in design and bears little resemblance to the other forms. In its aquatic stage, it becomes more distinct in its appearance, the larger it becomes, though it still vaguely resembles a gigantic tadpole. In its landing stage, it takes on a quadrupedal, reptilian form. Its flying stage is like a flying saucer, and its perfect stage takes on a humanoid bipedal shape. The Hedorah from Godzilla Final Wars has only one known form, reminiscent of the original Hedorah's perfect stage. It has a dark gray body with reddish tubes protruding from it. Considerably thinner than the original Hedorah, it has more discernible legs and fewer kelp-like protrusions on its body. Hedorah's left arm also possesses a long whip-like extension. According to an interview with Yoshimitsu Banno by the Japanese magazine Ega Haiho, he's directly quoted saying, "Hedorah's eyes were modeled on female genitalia." Well, come on, vaginas are scary. In Godzilla Final Wars, this illusion was significantly toned down, and Hedorah's eyes were tilted, and thus appearing to have a more normal appearance. In Godzilla vs. Hedorah, Godzilla tears out 2 white orbs from Hedorah's body. While in the film, the purpose of these orbs are never discussed. Supplementary material explains them to be Hedorah's eyeballs, despite them being white instead of red. In Godzilla vs. Hedorah, Hedorah was an alien life form from the dark gaseous nebula in the Orion constellation that landed on Earth after traveling on a comet for at least 243 light-years. In Godzilla Final Wars, Hedorah was one of the many monsters under the control of the Exilians, but his origins were never explained. Godzilla vs. Hedorah. Hedorah, an alien from the dark gaseous nebula, landed on Earth and promptly began feeding on pollution. Hedorah's actions soon gained the attention of Godzilla, who attacked the smog monster as he was sucking on an active smokestack. At the time, Hedorah was smaller than Godzilla, and inexperienced at fighting, and was easily trounced by Godzilla. Hedorah continued to grow bigger and stronger, eventually evolving into a flying saucer-like stage, allowing him to fly and spread sulfuric acid mist across Japan, while destroying many factories as he continued to feed. Hedorah and Godzilla had a final showdown at the summit of Mount Fuji, in which Hedorah achieved his perfect stage. Thanks to his acidic poisonous body, as well as his lethal eye bolts, Hedorah very nearly put an end to Godzilla in their struggle. However, the JSDF had built a pair of gigantic electrodes near the warring monsters. Since Hedorah was mostly fluid, it was hoped that the 2 electrodes would dry Hedorah out and defeat him. Unfortunately, during the battle, the fuses to control the electrodes had blown, and the pylons supplying the electricity had been damaged by the 2 monsters, making the electrodes useless. Despite receiving brutal injuries in the battle, Godzilla powered the electrons with a blast of his atomic breath, as Hedorah was standing between them, dehydrating him. Just as it seemed as Godzilla had triumphed, Hedorah's dried husk burst open and another Hedorah flew out of it. Godzilla used his atomic breath to propel himself into the air and chase after Hedorah. After knocking Hedorah down, Godzilla brought Hedorah back to the electrodes and had them nearly completely dry Hedorah out. Realizing Hedorah might still have moisture within him that could bring him back to life, Godzilla tore into Hedorah's body and had the electrodes dry out the remaining husk of Hedorah, reducing him to a mass of dust and finally defeating the toxic alien. Godzilla Final Wars. Hedorah was the only Exilian-controlled monster, apart from the concealed Monster X and Gigan, not to participate in the initial attack on Earth's cities. The controller Planet X later dispatched him, however, along with Ebirah, to stop Godzilla in Tokyo Bay. Godzilla's atomic ray quickly sent the slimy abomination flying through the air and crashing into a building. Ebirah soon followed, with his claw piercing Hedorah's left eye. The two were then destroyed by an extended blast of Godzilla's atomic ray, much to the controller's frustration. Hedorah can launch pieces of his acidic sludge-like body at his opponents, which will burn or smother them. Hedorah can also discharge large quantities of sludge without impacting his size in any way, shown when he attempts to drown Godzilla in a pit by dumping a continuous stream of sludge onto him. Sulfuric Mist. Hedorah does not require oxygen to survive, but rather thrives on inhaling toxic pollutants. The byproduct of Hedorah consuming these pollutants is a highly concentrated sulfuric mist, which is capable of corroding any metal and completely disintegrating organic life. In his flying stage, Hedorah is also able to fly by propelling himself through the air with this mist, spreading the mist across a large area in the process. Hedorah's sulfuric acid mist was able to make Godzilla collapse and gasp for air. In the ending credits of Godzilla Final Wars, Hedorah is shown spraying sulfuric mist from tubes on his body. Hedorah is not seen using the ability in the film itself. Hedorah Light Beam. Hedorah's flying and perfect stages can fire a crimson laser beam from their eyes, capable of setting objects on fire and burning Godzilla's flesh. Division and Recombination. Hedorah is composed of multiple smaller individual creatures having joined together. Hedorah can grow in size and power by merging with other Hedorahs, or split apart into smaller ones and recombine later. Hedorah first demonstrates this ability in his first battle with Godzilla, where a small chunk of his body flies off while Godzilla swings him through the air. This piece begins moving on its own, and eventually grows into a landing stage, then combines with a larger flying Hedorah as it flies through Tokyo. Hedorah also uses this ability to survive during his final battle with Godzilla. When Godzilla uses the giant electrode to dry out Hedorah's perfect form into a husk, a smaller flying Hedorah breaks free of the husk and attempts to flee. Evolution. By feeding on pollutants and combining with other Hedorahs, Hedorah can grow substantially in size and evolve into new, more powerful forms. Hedorah started out as a completely aquatic tadpole-like creature, but developed legs that allowed him to come on land and gain access to more pollutants. Hedorah's next evolution granted him the ability to fly through the air and cover large distances quickly. The creature's final, perfect stage was a giant bipedal form that towered over Godzilla and allowed him to stand up to Godzilla in a hand-to-hand fight. Hedorah has the ability to switch between these forms at will. His perfect stage can transform to his flying stage and back. After a large portion of his body was dried out by the giant electrode, the smaller flying Hedorah that emerged from the monster's perfect stage was still able to transform into the landing stage. Durability. As a result of his acidic and amorphous body, Hedorah has extremely strong defenses. Conventional weapons are useless against him, as they simply pass through him, leaving Hedorah unharmed. Godzilla's atomic breath also failed to work on Hedorah before the giant electrodes were switched on, as his beam was incapable of drying Hedorah out, and only caused him to spark. Attacking Hedorah physically is a poor choice as well, as any contact with Hedorah's extremely corrosive blood results in horrific injuries, such as Godzilla's hand being burned down to the bone. Only Hedorah's eyes are known to be affected by his own blood, and it had to close its eye whenever it bleeds to prevent the eye from being damaged. While Hedorah is vulnerable to being dried out, he can survive this if any moist parts of his body are left behind.
Godzilla was forced to tear Hedorah apart and exposed every square inch of his body to the electric current of the giant electrodes in order to successfully destroy him. Weaknesses. Because Hedorah's body is composed of moist, sludge-like substance, he is vulnerable to being dried out by strong electrical currents. Hedorah was finally destroyed by the electrical currents of the giant electrodes constructed by the JSDF, with Godzilla ensuring his demise by tearing him apart and exposing every part of him to the current. After being dried by the electricity, Hedorah crumbled into dust.
During pre-production, Hedorah was originally called Hedorah. Toho would later use the Hedorah name for a monster from their TV series, Warrior of Love, Rainbow Man. On that note, Hedorah's name comes from the Japanese word for mud, Hedoro, and the common kaiju suffix of ra. Godzilla Final Wars director Ryuhei Kitamura originally wanted Hedorah to attack the Japanese island of Odaiba in a scene that was meant to spoof the Japanese police drama comedy series Bayside Shakedown. However, producer Shogo Tomiyama shot the idea down. To somewhat remedy the staff's complaints that Hedorah's role was too minuscule, footage of the smog monster destroying Tokyo and using sulfuric acid mist emitted from his tube, which was created alongside publicity shots of Hedorah with Godzilla, was placed in the end credits. Yoshimitsu Banno always intended for Hedorah to return, as indicated by the "and yet another one" card at the end of Hedorah's debut film. While Banno planned on making Godzilla vs. Hedorah 2, it never got very far into production. Decades later, in the 2000s, Banno tried to make a new Godzilla film titled Godzilla 3D, which would have featured Deathlaw, a kaiju which would have been similar in appearance to Hedorah, but red in color and with a face like a human skull. His endeavors to secure funding for Godzilla 3D would lead to Legendary Pictures acquiring the rights to Godzilla in 2010 and releasing the American film in 2014. Hedorah appears in the TV series Godzilla Island, attacking Mothra and later being dried up by Godzilla. More interestingly, however, the series introduced a mushroom-based Hedorah named Neo-Hedorah, who resembled the original's perfect stage, with the exception of being light blue with candy pink patches. Neo-Hedorah appeared on Matango Island in the year 2098, destroying the food supply of the nearby Godzilla Island by producing giant mushrooms. At first defeating Godzilla, in the end Neo-Hedorah met his own doom through the combined efforts of the human Misato and by the monsters King Caesar and Fire Rodan. That's all we have for the Smog Monster. Thanks for watching, and this has been your host, Inshoma. If you want to check out some of my own personal works, please visit my DeviantArt page and blog, and of course keep watching for new updates from Wikizilla.